Welcome to Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salcido, and tonight I'm sharing experiences, true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And there are many ways to support the show. You can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can check out the uh, Patreon feed, the Patreon site, and get extra content there for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the merchandise store and find all kinds of shirts and other items there, aprons and coffee mugs and other things, and even some items with a revamped design on them in honor of Halloween and the 5th anniversary of this show coming out. Um, and Support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. Um, and I'll just go over it real quick, just from hosting all the episodes to all the equipment that basically you find out you need it when you find out you need it a lot of times. Um, and So there's all those things. And also, as always, like I've said before, I want to thank everyone who's donated actual supplies for the show, equipment for the show, in these last few months here. It's really been a huge help. And between that and then a couple other purchases on my own, this is probably the best setup I've ever had for this show, and I appreciate that a lot. And yes, also thanks to Sweets for helping with so many of the designs and making a post on over on X, Twitter, uh, showing some of them, and really appreciate that as well. And also, please follow friends of the show. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and is the co-host of the show on Saturdays when she's able to make it, and Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows as well as my own, 24/7 online for free. And these are some of my favorite shows to do. These experiences shows. We do have, it's not set. The date is not set yet, but I do have a because we're waiting for uh, events to unfold with this individual. But we do have someone else that will be joining me at some point um, to talk about their experiences on a listener experiences show. But again, no date on that yet. But just something to watch for when we get there. So and in a way, these are all sort of similar, but they're just posts from from one website, but different pages on it. And I think that it's. I'm glad that I found um, all these different forums online that talk about these things, because I don't think, other than some other, maybe a handful of other paranormal shows that I've listened to over the years, they don't get out a whole lot unless you're looking for them. So that's part of why I like to share them. And let me get to the first one here, and we will begin. And uh, let's see. Thank you all for listening in. This first one says, from the time that I was 7 years old until I was 12 years old, my family lived in the front house, and my aunt lived in the back house. From her living room, I could see our front door. I noticed that almost every night I would see an older man wearing brown mechanic overalls, carrying a lunchbox, stop at our front door. He would stop like he was unlocking the front door. He would enter the house. I told my aunt about the man, and she told me to let her know the next time I saw him. The next night she was watching us, and I saw the man walking up our driveway. I called my aunt, and we headed outside. I asked her if she saw him, and she said that she did. We walked to my house and watched the man stop at the door, unlock the door, and enter the house. We followed him, and he walked to the kitchen. He placed his lunchbox on the kitchen counter. He turned around, almost facing us, and then disappeared. This happened for years until I decided to ask our neighbors, an elderly couple that all the neighborhood kids called Grandma and Grandpa. That's amazing. Um, who had lived in the house before my family moved in. Grandpa asked me why, and I told him because I was curious. He told me that a man named K lived there, and again, I don't use full names for privacy reasons. He was a mechanic, and he had a garden that he loved in his backyard. I asked why he moved out if he loved the house so much, and I'm guessing they mean K there. Grandpa, told me that K was coming home from work one night and he died in a car accident. He never made it home. I said that was sad. I hope he didn't go through pain. Grandma said that he instantly passed as soon as the two cars uh, hit. I told my aunt what Grandpa said about Kay, and she told me that maybe I should tell him what happened. I was 12 years old and had been seeing this man for years. He never scared me, so I decided to give it a try. He usually showed up around 6 p.m., so I waited at the front door for him. When he walked up the driveway, I spoke to him. I said, "Hello, Kay. You had an accident and never made it home from work. My family lives in your house. You're free to keep coming back here every night, but there's a beautiful garden waiting for you on the other side. You're free, and I know that you miss your garden." Kay looked at our house, looked down at the ground, then looked up at the sky. He disappeared for the last time. We never saw him again. I told Grandma and Grandpa what I did, and Grandma said that she saw him walking down the street, but he always looked right through her. She said, "He heard you. He saw you. And that is a very special thing. Don't ever forget that." And that's where that one ends. That one is fascinating to me because it's. I've heard similar accounts of people who have these apparitions in their coming through their homes or in their homes of people just going about regular uh, everyday things, and in some cases they know and they find out about what happened to the individual. Other cases they don't, but then sometimes they will tell or try to tell the individual uh, that this individual has passed. And it can you never know from what I've read and heard how it's going to play out. If they're going to be able to process it and move on, or if they won't, if for some reason they can't, whether it's something in their own mind or who knows what else is out there. I don't know how all that works. But I thought this was a fascinating one in that you had this apparition that was not really causing harm, at least not intentionally, and appearing every day for like 5 years. That really is amazing. If it wasn't for the way that they vanished and did not come back, I might think it was residual. I guess it could still be some. I've heard of the idea of spirits or souls fragmenting after they pass. So I don't know if maybe it's one of those cases where it could have been a fragment. I'm not really sure how I feel about that idea, um, but I also can't rule it out. But I just thought that was an amazing one because you have this all basically working out in the end for everyone. Because really, it would be weird to have to see someone um, opening your door somehow, appearing to unlock and open your door to get into the house. I wonder how closely they could see his hand when he unlocked the door. In other words, did he physically unlock the door, or was it more him going through the action of it and somehow it causing the door to open as it did before for him? I don't know. But I thought that was a fascinating one to share because um, you don't hear about that all the time, and when you do, you don't. It doesn't always work out the way people want it. So it's actually nice to see one there, uh, one account of an experience where it did work out overall. Moving on to the next one here. This one says, I was on the bus sitting opposite a guy in a black hat. Nothing seemed unusual, although his style of hat wasn't common at that time. I was reading a funny book, and whenever something funny happened in the book, he would giggle. I thought maybe he was just reading my body language, but something started feeling off. The thought popped into my head. I wonder if he can read my mind. He looked at me and nodded. I figured it was coincidence, so I thought the same thing again. He nodded again. My logic kicked in, and I thought, people can't read minds. I'll put this to the test. Or put this to rest, sorry. So I thought, if you can read my mind, take your watch off your left wrist and put it on your right wrist. I figured that's not a normal thing for people to do. Without a word, he took his watch off his left wrist and put it on his right wrist. I froze. He stood up and pressed the button to get off the bus. He got off at the next stop. I got up the courage to look at him as he walked away. He turned around, looked at me, straight at me, tipped his black hat at me, and walked away. I never saw him again. Still can't get my head around it. For those that know Adelaide, I'm probably maybe saying that wrong, in South Australia, this was on the bus going up, and they say some names there of where everything was at. So um, that is fascinating, and I've heard of that before in rare cases where people seem to know what the experiencer is thinking, and sometimes it's a sort of a calming or a comforting thing. Other times it's weird, like this one. I would also be curious. Did anyone else on the bus, like, did everyone see him? Did he appear normal to everyone else? Um, and I mean, I don't know if he did. Then it seems like maybe some kind of a regular person or some other being, shapeshifter, possibly, that had the ability to read minds. It might be possible there. Um, I have heard, and I've had just a tiny bit of experience with um, what I felt like was a spirit, where I was able to communicate, not for long and not much, with a spirit, and they were able to uh, pick up what I was basically asking, putting out there. It's a whole long story, so I won't go into it right now. It's basically part of the story I've shared before on the show many times of the ghost girl that was here in this apartment when I moved in here. That eventually basically used dreams and things like that to tell her story, and then was gone. Um, and so I guess I can get to this part real quick. This one day I was thinking about trying to look into the history of the area and or this individual, and I had, of course, I'd heard on different shows and podcasts and things that that spirits can hear your thoughts sometimes. So I asked a question. I asked for a name, and I got a response in the same voice I'd heard before in the apartment, but in my mind. So, was this figure on this bus a spirit of some kind? And again, I have no answers. But but yeah, I I don't know if that one to me gives off a negative vibe or not. It kind of does in that it's not really nice to read people's thoughts. Uh, but also, if it's an ability that you can't turn off, then it may not have started off as being intentional. It's hard to say with that. It's one of those tropes you see in comic books and some movies and things where oh, this is an amazing thing. Uh, People can read minds, but then the problem is if you can't turn it off, or if you don't have the ability to, or time or ability or resources to train with that to block out random thoughts from people all around you all the time. I can imagine it would get to be uh, too much in very short amount of time. So anyway, let's move on to the next one here. This one says, I didn't know where to put this, but I've been having a strange experience recently. To explain, one day I was relaxing. I don't know what I was doing, watching videos online, and I heard two knocks. So I went outside, and I was on the porch looking around, and I thought, okay, playing with me. I didn't even have time to think uh, about it. The knock came again on the door behind me, and I was looking around to make sure I wasn't going crazy, and nothing could have made that sound. It came again. I answered. Nobody. I closed the door, and it came again. I didn't answer again. I went and asked somebody nearby, did you knock on the door? They responded, no, but I bet it was the dogs making noise because I heard the dogs barking. And this is them just thinking, no, the dogs were at the foot of the bed, laying down. They were barking because they heard a knock at the door. So it happened a third time, and then a few seconds later, it happened again, like clockwork, not skipping a beat. This time it scared me because I had just woken up to go to the bathroom, and the knock was so loud, like a police officer type of knock. It wasn't like banging, just a little more forceful, a force behind the knock. And no, I wasn't the only one to hear it. The dogs freaking heard it too. My boyfriend said, and I love this, this is just so kind and sarcasm there. My boyfriend said, it's just because you're pregnant. You're hearing things. Uh, yeah, that's so nice. Anyway, uh, and the writer says here, if I was just hearing things, the dogs wouldn't have responded. Tonight, the knock only happened once instead of twice, but it sounded more aggressive. What did I do? And I know spirits are around here. This was a Native American territory, and I see them running between the trees and down the street all the time. This is a lakefront house. One night I was walking to the dock, and it felt like something ran past me so fast I was almost knocked into the water. Also, in the main part of the house, one time, something opened the front door, which honestly could have been the wind, because it's easy to open the door. But I know it wasn't because a few steps in the house, there's these two glass doors that open in the opposite direction to the front doors, and they both opened at the same time, as if something just came home and went straight to the room. Don't mind that paragraph. It was mostly just for some more encounters, because I know I'm not crazy. So, do ghosts knock on your door sometimes? And that's where that one ends. It sounds like they have an active location, um, just to begin with. I don't know. It's hard to really pin down anything. Uh, I wonder how clearly she sees the figures going down the streets. If it's just shadows, then it could be anything. It could be um, people from another time, or their spirits from people from another time that were there before anyone else was. As far as from Europe or whatever. But if it's just shadows, then it could be anyone or any beings. It's hard to know. Uh, the knocking is fascinating because I had an experience with that once, um, years ago. My my mom. So we'll end with this one. My my mom had to go to the dentist in town where I live, and so she brought my sister, my younger sister, over to visit for a little while while my mom was at the dentist, and so she left and said she'd probably be like an hour and a half. So my sister and I were just here, and we had been talking, but then we each went to our own things. She was reading, and I think I was reading something too. So this was good 16 years ago. It wasn't that long after I moved in here, and my sister was still a kid at the time. And we heard a knock at the front door, and I went and looked, and there's no one there. And this place is small enough where I would have heard anyone trying to run away from the door, and or saw them with how quickly I could get to the door. This happened like 4 times. Every time, no one there. And I finally told my sister that we were just going to ignore it because I didn't know what was going on. And of course, one last knock came, and it was our mom. So I don't know what was going on, but it's hard to say. And so yeah, these things do happen here and there. Also, with my front door, and this hasn't happened in quite a while now, luckily so far. Um, it would someone or some force or whatever would lock or unlock it depending on the way I had it. If I had it unlocked, it would lock it, and if I had it locked, it would unlock it. And this went on for a while before it eventually stopped. So that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to y'all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.